All right, let's get right into it. Today we are talking about one of the most incredible, most shocking, and frankly, one of the most brutal battles of the entire Second World War, the Battle of the Bulge. This was a moment of unbelievable heroism, desperate gambles, and just shocking violence. So picture this. It's late 1944. The war in Europe? Well, it feels like it's winding down. The Allies are pushing hard towards Germany. And for the soldiers stationed in this dense, snow-covered Ardennes Forest, it was supposed to be the calm before the final victory.
But, this quiet little part of the front was about to become the absolute epicenter of a massive, last-ditch German attack that would catch literally everyone by surprise.
So you have to be asking, how in the world did the Allies get caught so completely off guard? To really get that, we need to rewind the clock just a little bit and look at the whole strategic picture across Europe.
See, after breaking out from Normandy that summer, the Allied momentum was just huge. Armies were rolling across France and Belgium, and there was this very real feeling, from the top generals all the way down to the GIs, that the war could actually be over by Christmas. And that thinking, well, that's exactly why the Ardennes was what it was. Allied command looked at it and saw terrible terrain for a big attack. Way too hilly, too many trees, so they left it lightly defended. It was held by a mix of brand new, inexperienced American divisions and some battle-weary units who were sent there to rest. It was a calculated risk, sure, but it was based on one single, very flawed assumption, that the German army was basically done for.
And that assumption was just dangerously wrong. From the German side of things, the situation was absolutely dire, which of course called for an audacious, all-or-nothing roll of the dice.
So on one side, you've got the Allied High Command. Think Eisenhower, Bradley, Patton, and they're managing this massive multinational force that's on the attack. And then on the other side, you have German commanders like von Rundstedt and Model, who were being told to execute a plan that, frankly, many of them thought was completely impossible. This quote, it tells you everything you need to know about the psychology behind this attack. Hitler truly believed the Western alliance between Britain and America was fragile. He gambled that one massive shocking blow could not only stop the Allies in their tracks, but actually shatter their whole coalition, forcing them into a separate peace. That would then let him turn all his forces to fight the Soviets in the East.
So, you see, this was never planned as just a little counterattack. No, this was designed to be a knockout blow. The ambition was just staggering. Step 1, total surprise hidden by terrible weather that would keep the powerful Allied Air Force on the ground. Step 2, smash through that thin American line. Step 3, race to the Meuse River. And then, the final goal, capture the vital port of Antwerp. The hope was to literally split the Allied armies in two.
And so, under a cloak of absolute secrecy and just miserable weather, the German war machine coiled itself up for one last massive strike.
Before dawn, hundreds of thousands of German soldiers and thousands of tanks and artillery pieces just slammed into the completely unsuspecting American lines. The surprise wasn't just good, it was total.
The first few days for the Allies were just a blur of chaos and retreat. The German advance was terrifyingly fast. Entire American units were being surrounded and just swallowed whole. And Germany's elite panzer divisions, their armored spearheads, were driving deep behind the lines, racing for those critical bridges and crossroads. And this, right here, is how the battle got its famous name. If you looked at a military map, the German attack created this huge salient. That's just a military term for a part of the line that juts into enemy territory, or a bulge, pushing deep into the Allied front. The line didn't totally break, but boy, it bent right to its breaking point. But right in the middle of all this chaos, there was one small Belgian town, a critical hub of 7 major roads that was about to become the anchor that would stop the German tide. Eisenhower rushed reinforcements to the Ardennes, and that included the elite 101st Airborne Division. They literally got to the town of Bastogne just in the nick of time, moments, and I mean moments, before the German panzers completely surrounded it. The Screaming Eagles were trapped.
Their situation was about as grim as it gets. They were outnumbered, they were outgunned, and they were running low on ammo, food, and medical supplies, all while fighting off constant attacks in the freezing cold. So the German commander, feeling pretty confident, sent them a message demanding their surrender to avoid, total annihilation.
The acting commander of the 101st, a guy named Brigadier General Anthony McAuliffe, gave an answer that would become absolutely legendary. His official one-word reply to the German demand was simply nuts.
And look, this response was so much more than just bravado. By refusing to give up, the defenders of Bastogne became this huge roadblock. The Germans couldn't just go around them. They desperately needed the roads that ran through that town to keep their advance supplied. This one single, defiant stand completely gummed up their entire timetable.
And the time bought at Bastogne? That was exactly what the Allies needed. The tide was about to turn, but the price for this victory was going to be enormous.
So then, in one of the most incredible feats of the entire war, General George Patton literally wheeled his entire Third Army 90 degrees and just drove them north through brutal winter weather, attacking the southern side of the Bulge. And 10 days after the battle started, his tanks punched through and broke the siege of Bastogne.
Now, relieving Bastogne was the beginning of the end for the German offensive. But the fighting, it was far from over. For another solid month and some of the worst winter conditions you can possibly imagine, American, British, and other Allied forces fought this grinding, bloody battle to push the Germans all the way back to their starting line.
The gamble had failed. The offensive had completely used up the very last of Germany's elite troops and armored reserves, men and machines they could never, ever replace. The road to Berlin was now wide open. But the cost was just immense.
To this day, the Battle of the Bulge remains the single largest and bloodiest battle the United States Army has ever fought. Over 80,000 American casualties.
It was a victory, for sure, one that absolutely sped up the end of the war, but it was paid for with a level of sacrifice that is almost impossible to comprehend. The battle is just this brutal reminder that on the path to peace, sometimes the final steps are the most violent of all.